Hey, what's up guys, Rev here. So it's been 2 days since the release of the official world premiere trailer of Assassin's Creed Shadows, and what has followed on social media has been a lot of controversy and debate, mainly stemming from the choice of the two main characters of this upcoming release. A lot of people are a bit confused seeing a game taking place in a feudal Japan setting, and the two main characters end up being a woman and a black man. And what people also find odd is that Assassin's Creed is trying to portray Yasuke as a legendary samurai when historical evidence has suggested that he was likely no more than a retainer. And a lot of people have reflected these concerns in the trailer and its public reception, which now has reached over 400,000 dislikes. In fact, the reception on this has been so bad that it's dwarfed the number of dislikes on the recently released trailer for Star Wars Outlaws. So Ubisoft basically has released two absolute flops in a row, not looking good for them. However, despite all of that feedback, including negative feedback from Japanese users across social media, people on Twitter are trying to share the narrative that Japanese people love this game and that people who are outraged over this are just a bunch of, white male gamer chuds, the usual suspects. So you see this tweet with 79,000 likes and somehow only 66 comments on it, which is kind of strange, saying a white guy just fell to his knees in a Walmart in Nebraska, where you see a translated comment from a Japanese user saying basically that they're excited to see Yasuke in this game. Well, is that how Japanese users feel about this game? Are they excited about this game? Is it getting warm reception on the Japanese side of social media? No, it's not. Here is the official trailer released onto the official Ubisoft Japan account, and here is the like-dislike ratio from Japanese users. It is even worse than the Western release of this trailer. In fact, it's about a 10-90 ratio in terms of likes versus dislikes. I think gamers, especially those from Japan, have made it very clear they don't like the direction that this game is going. However, when gamers make their voice heard and it doesn't agree with a certain narrative, that's when the game journalists come in to make absolute stinkers about this situation, and they are working overtime. So here's the gamer releasing this article saying, Assassin's Creed doesn't care about historical accuracy, and neither should you. Which is interesting because at first people were trying to claim over and over again that Yasuke was a samurai and that anyone claiming he was a retainer was wrong despite history and evidence suggesting he was likely just a retainer. Now they're switching the narrative to, well, he might not be an actual samurai based on historical evidence, but Assassin's Creed doesn't care about historical accuracy, which is obviously just an excuse to defend their position. But you might also recognize the name of the author here, Jade King. We actually looked at one of their articles recently where they claimed Resident Evil 5 is too racist for a remake. And the reason they're claiming that is because the game takes place in Africa, and of course this is a bio-warfare type situation where people are being turned into zombies essentially, and now they're trying to claim that your choice to kill these zombies is not based on the fact that they're zombies, it's based on the fact that they're Africans, which is an outlandish claim, but something that is shared by other journalists like IGN, who made the same exact claim in an article only a few months ago. And IGN has also gotten involved in this situation. They released an article a few hours ago before recording this video titled, Assassin's Creed Shadows is under fire for featuring a black samurai protagonist, but let's not pretend we suddenly care deeply about Asian representation. Speak for yourself, by the way. I can remember the number of gamers coming to defend the choice of Eve as the main protagonist of Stellar Blade, and it was game journalists who were fighting back against that and trying to denigrate her at any possible turn to try to make her look bad, or the game bad, or the choice of the protagonist look bad, or cheap, or whatever. It was pretty obvious where gamers stood on that, so that's a bit of gaslighting right there. And continuing on to the article, it says, Assassin's Creed Shadows Samurai isn't Asian. It does nothing for Asian representation to have another samurai hero. You hear that, guys? Any Asian viewers? You've had enough representation in the realm of samurais. You're represented enough at this point. What an outrageous claim. It also reminds me of this comment we looked at recently from the community manager of Compulsion Games, who claimed that Asians are white adjacents, which honestly is reflected by the opinions of a lot of people in the gaming industry and game journalism. But moving on, here's the article. It says this. While it's a known issue that Asian representation in Western games is severely lacking, I find it hypocritical and laughable that we're only talking about the need for an Asian protagonist now that it's been revealed Assassin's Creed Shadows will star a black samurai. This misses the forest from the trees. While I am always advocating for more Asian men in AAA games, I'll be the first to say that better representation isn't going to be found in yet another samurai hero. Continuing on, enough with the samurais. Ubisoft deciding to focus on Yasuke, a known historical figure, is a smart move. An Assassin's Creed game set in Japan that otherwise would have been, frankly, hard to distinguish from some other recent open-world samurai games. And if I wanted to see an Asian samurai protagonist, I don't have to look very hard. Again, the same claim, basically, you've been represented enough. So basically, there's no need to have Japanese characters playing samurais anymore. You could just have anyone. I would love them to apply this same logic to other parts of the world. Games taking place in other parts of the world. Would you feel comfortable with saying that those areas have been represented enough and they exchange it for a different race, the main characters? I don't think you would have that same principle. I think you would have a very different opinion about your own logic being applied in that way. But continuing on, we saw some other game journalists propping up this article. We see Ash Parrish here saying, nailed it in one. Okay, if you forgot who this person was, they are the Verge journalist here who's made some absolute classics like Elden Ring's character creator fails black players because they didn't include an option to have black hairstyles, whatever that means. And also they made some weird comments I pointed out in another video on Twitter saying we haven't seen this level of white-on-white violence since January 6th. Y'all roasting the white meat off that poor Dutch child. Again, with the other standard we just talked about, replace any of this or any of these terms with other races and people would be extremely upset. But also, they are the one who made this hilarious and ironic article saying, the return of Gamergate is smaller and sadder, while choosing to write an entire article about the situation where she says that she used to also work at Kotaku and then goes on to defend journalists at Kotaku and to forgive Sweet Baby Inc. and intentionally omits any of the comments and the initial harassment campaign led by a Sweet Baby Inc. employee that started that whole situation. But moving on, Dexerto would enter the mix, and surprisingly, Dexerto didn't really do anything wrong in the situation. They actually gave a pretty accurate portrayal of the situation they were covering here, saying, maybe this is their strategy. Add in a main character for a game that's really controversial, and that way, it'll distract from the fact that you're trying to get people to spend $130 for an effing game, referring to comments made by Asmongold in a recent video talking about Assassin's Creed Shadows. And of course, I think this is a very agreeable point. However, it went over the heads of many people who were getting the completely wrong message from this, talking about a completely different talking point. And again, missing the point entirely right here about why people are talking about the oddity of these main character choices. But also they're ignoring this, the actual prices, the Ultimate Edition costing $130. And then people are saying, well, wait a second. The standard edition is $70. You can just get the standard edition. Let's stop acting like the normalization of a $70 AAA title should be acceptable. You should be complaining about that too. $70 is ridiculous for a AAA title like this. And also the fact that they're trying to push this monthly payment option on you so they can squeeze even more money out of you. Which makes sense because Ubisoft has been saying some crazy stuff. Their executive recently saying that you should get comfortable with not owning your games. Physical copies, no more. You should just get comfortable with these digital copies that they can eventually yoink from you at any time and alter without your permission. But anyways, we're also seeing some course correction on Twitter as well. We talked about this tweet where people are trying to compare Assassin's Creed Black Flag here to the current outrage over Assassin's Creed Shadows, saying a white man was in the Caribbean, a Dutchman, or a Welshman, I'm sorry, where of course this note will say in the majority of pirates in the Golden Age, approximately 1690 to 1730, a lot of them were British or American. Yeah, again, correcting that. And a lot of people have come out of the woodwork to provide their insight on this situation and to cover up some of the confusion about Yasuke and some of the history in Japan. So this user says, Actually, a retainer is more important than a samurai. Refuses to elaborate, blocks, and leaves. Let's see what this person had to say. A retainer is a bodyguard for nobility, a status higher than the typical samurai, specifically when it's towards a daimyo or shogun. Seems like all the LARPing is just the result of too much money and a fascination for Imperial Nazi Japan, which was the actual endpoint of samurai. Interesting point. I don't know what's going on with this account here, but their crazy claims here kind of add up when you look around. But also, we would see Detroit Rin here giving her opinion. She often gives her opinion on Japan. I believe she's like half Japanese, and she moved to Japan a few years ago, and she always weighs in on these topics, giving the opinion of Japanese people on whatever matter. And you can see she's had some classics like claiming that the majority of Japanese people don't actually watch anime and that they only watch mainstream anime, and that somehow only 30% of people watching anime in Japan is a small number, that only 30% of all people in Japan watch anime. But she would weigh in on this, talking about Yasuke, giving people a history lesson where people were reminding her of where she's at in the situation, saying, real, I'm 1/24th Cherokee white girl energy right here. If she's confused or having a hard time explaining where Japanese citizens stand on this game and what their reception looks like, again, just go to the trailer. This is not a mistake. This is not, oh, whoops, a few people hijacked the message here. No. This shows me there is a great disdain for this game and what it's trying to do with its main characters and the story as a whole. This makes it very clear. And again, people will gaslight you on Twitter and say that, no, Japanese people really enjoy this game. That is clearly not the case. And again, for a game that is supposed to be based in Japan, when you put a non-Japanese citizen as one of the main characters, it's already kind of weird, and you're losing out on the market where the game is supposed to be taking place. Clearly, it's offensive to some people or bothering them or rubbing them the wrong way, however you want to frame it, but the proof is right here, and people, again, on Twitter will try to deny it, but they can't really do it when it's right here to look at. But anyways, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. As always, feel free to share your thoughts about today's topics in the comment section down below, and I'll see you guys next time.